It is my pleasure today to introduce and speak to the, in my opinion, amazing writer-director Mike Mills and very excellent young actor Woody Norman from the film Come On, Come On, which comes out next Friday, November 19th. And if you guys are taking any pictures or tweeting about this, feel free to use hashtag Vulture Festival. I think my bosses would really like that. This is really exciting for me because I'm a huge fan of the film. I'm actually reviewing it for the magazine. So I really jumped at the chance to do this panel. And I thought maybe we could just start out talking about where the genesis of the project kind of led to and also how the lovely Woody Norman got involved.
Well, I just really needed to meet Woody, so I had to come up with a whole film idea. So that's a very complicated way to meet Woody. It started with my kid, just me and my kid, and like the challenges and the love and the deepening of meaning to happen for me having a kid. I don't know if there's any parents around, but you guys all look very young to me. And it was also an experience of like one of my favorite things is getting my kid a bath. So there's a lot of scenes like that in the film, or like putting your kid to bed, reading to them. So intimate, so tiny. But at the same time, you're really aware of your relationship to the huge world, to society at large, to the future, to history, right? As a parent, you're really walking this person into society. So I love it when there's a story like that, incredibly intimate and yet very big and public. So meeting this guy, so I've told this story a lot. I don't know if you've heard this. So it was so hard to get Joaquin Phoenix in this movie, as you can probably testify. And it took months and months of me kind of begging him and being so in love with him, right? And just like we'd meet all the time, and we would read the script together, and I would play all the other parts, and he would play his part, and we would just talk. And finally, he pretty much said he was going to do it, but not really, but pretty much. But the whole thing was like, but there's no kid, Mike. This is all just like a hypothetical conversation, because what kid could really do this, you know?
Wow.
And so it was really this unspoken agreement between us that like, if we don't find just the right kid, let's just not do it. It's too important to like not, you know. So we put a whole bunch of money aside for this very long casting search that we were going to do, planned all these different cities that we're going to look in, just really buckled up for a long, hard ride. And then in the first casting thing I got, I think Woody was kid 2.
Wow.
And I was like, oh, okay, that kid. And then I was like, can we get him into my office, you know? And like, oh, he's in London. Oh, he's an American kid in London. No, he's British. He lives in London. It's like, what? You know? So then we asked Woody to come to L.A.
Yeah. Oh, that's loud. I hold it too close to my face, sorry. Okay, here's a good place.
So did Woody
remember
have to
that?
audition? Like, how was that whole process
Remember
for you,
that?
Woody?
Well, you take over.
Yeah, so I did a lot of self-tapes for it, and then we got flown out for the chemistry test with Joaquin. And then, yeah, we got along really well,
Oh.
so that was very fun. And then, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, one of the strengths of the film is definitely the rapport you create with Joaquin Phoenix. It's such an intimate, warm dynamic. And I really loved what you said, Mike, about, you know, using what is small and intimate to actually kind of get towards bigger ideas. Because there is something, even though it is technically on certain levels, aesthetically, you know, in terms of the cast, like a quote unquote smaller film, but I found it to be very expansive, you know, morally, intellectually, like even spiritually, like especially, you know, looking at Woody's performance and also the various interviews with kids, where they're talking very frankly about, you know, the fact that the earth is on fire and life is really hard, and sometimes the adults in your life don't actually listen to you. And I thought that was really beautiful. Can you talk about like a little bit about those interviews with kids and like what you wanted to get across with both the children in those interviews and with Woody's character that allows them to be, you know, feel like real lived in people, not just like little plot devices?
Woody, do you remember what Joaquin was wearing when you first met him?
Pajamas.
Really?
Just wearing pajamas.
What kind of pajamas?
Grey ones.
Gray
I don't know.
pajamas.
Red and black plaid. He ends up wearing them in the movie.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. He just rolled up in his pajamas. I was like, cool. I was
I
wondering
love
if you
that.
clocked that they were his pajamas or not.
I kind of like that.
So the interviews with the kids, those are all. You guys haven't seen the film, right?
No, they
Oh,
haven't.
you saw it. Okay, cool. You saw it? Oh, that's so sweet. Some people
Okay,
saw it. How
nice.
nice. Well, you guys all saw it.
Okay.
feel like I'm at my-
Taste.
feel like-
Yes, taste. I love
Right.
it.
So there's these interviews with, for you who haven't seen, there's interviews with all these kids like 9 to 14 in the film. They're really they're not actors, they're from the different cities we're in. The idea was kind of what you're saying, that these kids' perspective on our lives, our society, our world would be like the setting that my intimate story kind of walks through. And I love the way you described it. That's what it was trying to be, like kind of ever expanding.
Yeah.
And that those kids aren't serving the narrative part of the film. They're alongside it, they're cohabitating with it, but they're
Yeah.
not like in service. It's not like Woody or Joaquin figured themselves out via those real children that we interviewed. So that was the idea, or the hope, yeah.
Yeah, I think that was, really successful.
And then with this person, for me and Joaquin, it was a lot. From that very first time we met, you remember one of the funnest things we did, we asked you like what you like to do, and you talked about wrestling
Yeah.
with your brother. Do you remember that?
Yeah, that was fun. Well, it was never really wrestling. We just fought.
And I think how did it start? And then Joaquin just got into that crazy character right then? Started
Oh.
like challenging you to a wrestling, or maybe I asked you guys to do it.
Yeah.
And that became part of the film. Became something a scene that we shot over and over again. Them kind of doing, and lots of things like me and Joaquin were always looking for Woody to kind of take the lead, or kind of just listen to Woody, or not just Woody as Jesse, but like Woody. Like, what does Woody think? What's Woody gonna do? And that I know I've heard Joaquin say in interviews that like day 1 or 2 of shooting, he just really clocked into like, oh, if I just listen to Woody and respond to Woody, everything's gonna go fine,
Yeah. One thing I really loved about y'all's dynamic in the film is it feels very authentic and fresh, and it made me wonder, was there a lot of improv on set, or did y'all stick really closely to what you wrote, Mike? I'm really curious. Or Woody, yeah, I would like to
I
hear,
want to hear Woody's.
your perspective on that.
It was not really like conventionally improvising, because we'd always just ask if we can add something. But if something came to us during a take, we'd just do it. So it was very like free. Like the script was guidelines almost. I don't know if I should say that, but yeah, it was just like, this is what you should do, but you can do something else if you want to.
Is there a moment of, I guess, this sort of softer improv that you're really proud of that ended up in the film?
I could do it. for
Yes,
you.
please.
One of my favorite ones, Woody does. So there's this scene where they read Star Child, this book.
Yes, yeah.
So and that's something me and my kid do, and I cry, and my kid makes fun of me. So that's all like come from my life, and then very scripted, and he's like, "You're crying." No, I'm not. Yes, you are. Well, it's true. You're never gonna remember everything. This is all scripted, and they say that, and
Yeah.
and then I think his character says that's stupid, and then Woody adds, "You have the mental capacity of a deceased person," which is like, right, one of the best written lines in the whole, and very written feeling. You know?
Yeah.
And right.
Yeah.
And then Joaquin just laughs his brains out because what a fucking funny thing to say.
Seriously.
And sorry everyone.
Oh, it's okay. I will body you with the curses in just a few minutes, don't worry.
There's so many great little witty lines in there. What really, more than the lines, even if they're doing my lines, there's so much micro things that they're doing back and forth with each other. And if Joaquin dropped any surprises, he was right there with it, and that was part of their camaraderie, like I don't know what you call it. When we were doing the audition, do you remember this?
Yes, probably.
So Joaquin was like, it's that orphan scene, and they're kind of riffing off of it, and he's like, well, what should I call you? He says, what should I call you? And Joaquin's going, something just really casual, something not fancy, something comfortable, like Jesus Christ. and he goes, I'm not Christian. This is like right off, no gap.
I love it.
Yeah.
The one thing that, as a critic, I kind of clock is that usually kid actors put it on thick sometimes. You're actually, like, really... Thanks, Mike. Is this... Okay.
Yeah.
You're, like, really feel fresh and authentic, and, like, there's, like, a real expansive quality to the performance, but also really great little moments in there, especially when it comes to the way Jesse wrestles with his father's bipolar disorder and the shadow of it on his and his mother's life. And I was wondering, for you, Woody, what attracted you to acting in the first place? Like, what is it about this form of art that you find exciting?
Well, a lot of my family have been. Like, my auntie was quite a big English actor. So when I was like 5, I just asked my mum if I can try it.
Wow.
Then we went to audition for my agency. We got it. Then ever since, I've just been doing what I love doing, and I've never worked a day in my life, and I love it.
That's beautiful. Like, seriously, no, that's really awesome to have such a firm handle on something you love and also be able to kind of play with it, because you can see that playfulness in your performance. One other thing that I was really curious about, given the heaviness of Scoot McNairy's plotline with, him being Jesse's father and dealing with bipolar disorder and really struggling with it, how much were you aware of with regards to that plot line making the film? Were you guys really upfront with him about the bipolar disorder? Like, how were conversations around that aspect of the film specifically?
As you can tell, Woody's a very deep adult person, so we didn't there's not like a child actor in this film.
I love it.
There really isn't. Woody's work is no different than Joaquin's work, and right, we didn't ever treat Woody differently or hide something.
Good.
Is that right?
Yeah, I mean, I liked it that nothing was ever sugar-coated.
Yeah.
Because if it was, I wouldn't have been able to play the character.
Yeah.
Because, like, if you sugar-coated the bipolar disorder, like, plot line, nothing would have come through as genuine, because I wouldn't have known anything.
Exactly.
But I think it's really clever that they just told me.
Yeah, definitely. And it kind of reflects things happening in the actual film where Jesse doesn't know what's going on with his father, and that's where that heaviness sort of comes from.
Yeah.
A knowledge that, of course, he has to know. And I thought it was really clever using it, that like bipolar bear book text. I'm actually, like, one of the really great things about the film, for those who haven't seen it, is there's quite a few, most of them female written or handled text, like Camera Person or Jacqueline Rose's amazing essay on motherhood. And I was wondering, where did that idea come from to insert those texts? Because I thought they added such interesting texture to the film.
Yeah, well, texture is a great word. So in my last 2 movies, I've done this too, where I've taken like beginners like Harvey Milk's history or The Velveteen Rabbit. And I love taking other texts and integrating them and kind of decentering my voice or my authorship and having it be more sort of collage-like or something. Like, I just find it exciting.
Yeah.
And like, I like the heterogeneity of it. And so all those things are things that, like Star Child, they are all women authors too. And I really like that. It kind of supported, to me, the inner son or the hidden son inside this film is mom. Is Viv's character. And I feel like all the boys and men in the movie are always referring back to her.
Yeah.
So it was nice to have these meta texts be all women also. So some of them are ones I just read in my life, like the Jacqueline Rose, and just adore it. And it's like giving me hope. It's like, well, fuck, sorry. If the Jacqueline Rose thing is in the movie, maybe my movie's going to be decent. Or I was talking to Kirsten Johnson, and I was doing a Q&A with her, and I remembered her Camera Person essay, which is so amazing.
Oh, God.
So that was in the middle of the edit. And I was like, I should have this in the movie. Like, Kirsten, can I have this in the movie? And she's like, well, if Joaquin Phoenix is saying it, maybe, I want to hear Joaquin saying my words, yes. So that was something I just invented in the middle of the edit. Can I go back to something? Because I haven't gotten to hang out with this person very much.
Oh, of course, yeah.
Do you remember the scene we did in the pharmacy?
Yes.
Or
I
you?
do.
So, me and Joaquin have really, and we've done some press together, and we both remember that day. And so Woody has to really yell his brains out at Joaquin. And Woody is a British person. I think was a little afraid to just yell at Joaquin, maybe. I don't know if you've really done that in a scene by that point in a film, maybe.
I've never yelled at someone in acting that I can remember. That probably have. I don't know.
So I had to do a lot of like, yes, you can yell at him. And Joaquin, they're like, yeah, yell at me, yell at me, yell at me. And I think the first take you maybe went 3/4 yelling or whatever. I was like, you got to do it more, Woody. Maybe the second take was just like, Bwah! and in the scene he runs off camera, and me and Joaquin were like, that was fucking great, And then Woody runs back and apologizes to Joaquin, or checks in with Joaquin like, are you okay? And But me and Joaquin both felt like something really ignited with you that day. Like you kind of went like, whoa, I can do a lot.
That's when I actually got comfortable with shouting in films.
Nice. And there's some shouting in the movie, especially towards the end. There's a really great scene with you and Joaquin kind of shouting at each other and like letting those emotions fly, which that actually brings me to something I was wondering watching the film the second time. You know, it's very hard, I think, to accurately and in a full-bodied way get across a sense of intimacy sometimes in a film, especially a film like this. It will live or die based on that intimacy. But as a director, you know, how do you create an environment that allows your actors to feel safe enough to yell at Joaquin Phoenix?
Well, by that point, it's fun to yell at him, wouldn't you say?
I like that.
Do you have any answer to that? How did I make it
It was so
intimate
fun
for
to shout at him. Because, I mean, I love Joaquin, he's so nice. But it was pretty fun to shout at him.
We shot chronologically, so it started in Los
wow.
Angeles, went to New York, and then ended up in New Orleans.
Oh.
And so, like, one of my favorite scenes is after Joaquin faints sorry to spoiler alert, but anyways, he faints.
I know,
Not a big
such
deal.
a huge spoiler. Joaquin Phoenix faints, and
Yeah.
come on.
Yeah. And they're kind of helping him afterwards, and you're helping him just like admit that he fainted, and you lay on his stomach, and you guys are also holding hands, and you lay on his stomach. I didn't ask anyone to do any of that. By that point, they were so lovely together and like such great pals, right? And even if we weren't shooting, they would like be laying on each other and hanging out. But seriously, Woody, how did I make it intimate, or how did I make it safe for you? I'm curious as a director.
I don't know, it just kind of, you can never really force, like, you can't set up, like, okay, today you're going to spend time together, because that doesn't work.
Yeah.
So it's always just, I don't know, he's just, like, very easy to get along with.
Yeah.
So it's just, me and him are very the same, but we're also very different.
Yeah.
Because, like, yeah, it's just, we got along with a lot of stuff, and we talked about just, in between takes, we talked about music, we talked about, I don't know, just everything, you know? So we really just got to be good friends.
That's lovely. Like that you can have that connection with someone who is, you know, a collaborator in that way.
Well, and I think Joaquin's really sensitive to like all power, right? All power differentials, and he did such a great job interviewing the kids in the movie,
Yeah.
because he wants to completely, from all his fibers and atoms, treat them as an equal, right? And so they're feeling that, and I think that was also expressed towards Woody. And Joaquin, I remember the first day, or like the first time I showed Joaquin like little cuts of scenes, right? And he take this with I'm gonna cuss again. Is that okay? Joaquin's very funny, really funny. And so he comes in after seeing this stuff, he goes, "That little fucker, he is so good. That little fuck," you know, like joking. And he had such admiration for you, and he would, you know, I'd always say, like, "Oh, well, you're a kid actor." I was like, "Not like that." You know, like I was just interested in the craft service table. This is like an actual actor. Do you remember how you would tease Joaquin at the end of the shoot?
No.
You would go,
I think I did actually make fun of him a few
yeah,
times.
we're all joking, but we had a lot of jokes on the set. It was a very funny set. And this one started going like, "I've been carrying you this whole film." So Joaquin, which it just makes Joaquin fall over laughing, so there was a lot of that kind of stuff. That's like encouraging that. And by the end of the shoot, I was jealous of their relationship, because they were kind of had their own thing, right? And I wanted in on everyone's relationship. And I was like, "Hey, this started with me," you know. But I also, as a director, I knew this is gold. If they have secrets, if they have their own world, their own communication, their own like thriving hive little thing within themselves, that's, as long as the camera's on, this is all to my benefit.
Yeah, definitely. I have to talk about the New Orleans of it all. That's where my family's from. I've been going there since I was knee-high. I have a very intense love for that city. So whenever I see it on screen, I'm a harsh judge. But I thought the film was really good at just getting across the rhythms, the energy, the vibe of the city. I thought it was also really cool that you included that young black girl who was being interviewed, her mention about how Airbnbs are like completely reshaping the city. I was like, oh, okay, they care about the city. What made you decide to do New Orleans for the film? What about the city felt like it would work for the story?
So the film is kind of like a road film. Like I had to pick like 4 or 5 cities, and there's so many cities I could have picked.
Yeah.
So I grew up with someone who's from New Orleans and talked about, like people from New Orleans talk about it all the time, is the magical place, right?
It is.
So as a child, I had that in my head, you know. And then one of my very best friends is from there too as an adult. So it's always in my consciousness as like the place. So when I was like places that are cinematic that would be great to film, and like a spiritual raw place that would invite the end of the film, would help summon all the emotions for the end of the film. I just had a hunch it was New Orleans. I'd only been there like a couple times as a tourist. So when I arrived, obviously it's such a deep place, such a place with complicated history. I wanted to be a visitor, not a tourist, right? So I immediately glommed on to Laurie Tipton and Jackie Simmel, and we shot in Jackie's home in the 7th Ward. And Jackie introduced us to Sonny Patterson, who's not an actor, just a local poet, activist person who played the role in the film. And I was like, I asked them just questions every day. Where should we shoot? What should we do? Like how to get it right-ish, like how to do some justice to New Orleans. And Jackie's a very deep person. She's a prison abolitionist that has like it's called the Solitary Gardens in the 9th. And she's a deep activist person. So she said, yeah, you can shoot at our house. If my kids and Breon, the young woman, and Douglas and Devontae, if they could hang out as much as they want on set and just be a part of be integrated. And if you guys go do an anti-racism training with the People's Institute, like if you have your whole crew go do it. I was like, yes, that all sounds great. So entering New Orleans is a very deep process.
Yeah.
And now that like 2 of my greatest friends, I just came from New Orleans, and they're life-changing friends.
Yeah, it's a life-changing city with life-changing people. This country is so lucky to have New Orleans.
Yeah, right, exactly. Yeah.
Whoa, like.
Yeah.
For you, how was the experience being in New Orleans and shooting there?
New Orleans is very cool. I like just, jazz there is really big.
Oh, yeah.
So it was very just calming there. The food there was amazing. Just everyone there had just such character.
Yeah.
And there wasn't like a street where it wasn't just cool to be there.
Yeah.
And there was never like a boring moment there. At the beginning, I was scared because the whole ghost thing there is pretty big.
Yeah.
So me and my mum were both like, we didn't look in mirrors because we thought something would be behind us. So yeah, that was fun. But after a while, it's just so much culture there, and it's amazing.
Yeah. It's a very cinematic city. I know like that's a word that gets thrown around a lot in ways that kind of render it without meaning, but it is like every street corner feels so full of rich imagery, and it's also, funny enough, a city I really associate with color, like bright, vivid. I mean,
yeah, so much color.
The houses are painted like robin's egg blue and coral, and it's gorgeous. And even though the film is in black and white, I feel it somehow got across that energy really well. And I wanted to ask you about the decision for black and white, because I thought it gave the film a really interesting warmth and energy to it.
Oh, that's neat. You say warmth. Well, there's a bunch of reasons. So that when the film was kind of coming at me, right? It's like in your imagination, on the edge of your imagination, can I do it? I kept seeing this image of like the young kid and the adult, like that silhouette, right? The little person and the big person walking through spaces. And that image was always in black and white to me. And I think it's because it's like a mythological fable image.
Oh, totally.
And it's like Christopher Robin helping Winnie the Pooh upstairs to me, or it's like Charlie Chaplin and the Kid, or it's like so many, or it's like a Jungian Aesop fable kind of image. And black and white, it takes you out of reality. It's such a crazy abstraction, really. We don't ever see anything in black and white. It's such a weird thing. And it throws you into like story, to me. It throws you into like story fiction space, fable space. And it has like a weird elbow room. Like you can tonally shift around easier. You can do more things, I found. And then I kept telling myself at the beginning, trying to convince myself into it, because I'm really not a very confident writer-director person at the beginning, especially. So I had to come up with a lot of lines. It's a drawing, not a painting. To me, a drawing means something intimate, quick, where you feel the drawer and the person who's drawn, It's like a David Hockney line drawing, right? Like has that intimate, fresh thing, And then it's also like Satie music to me. Like Satie is huge for me. Nice. It's very open, spacious music, right? And black and white, like Satie, you can kind of like enter the music. It doesn't like yell at you. And to me, black and white, there's something like that too, where I can like move around inside the image easier, or there's like a softness, and to me it's like a warmth. So all those things I kind of piled up, and then I'm just like pretentious, and I love black and white movies.
Oh, I mean, I'm a pretentious film critic, so I was like, black and white? Hey, it's a party now. I'm
Yeah.
going to have fun writing about the cinematography.
Yeah.
And there's lots of, I'm going to geek out just a little bit, there's lots of really intriguing shots. One of my favorites in the film, and like it really got stuck in my head, was in flashback with Gabby Hoffman, who plays Viv, who is Joaquin Phoenix's sister. In the film, they're arguing about their mother in this flashback who is deteriorating with dementia. And I thought it was just really cool. Like, you see like her arguing and her very passionate gestures, which kind of guides your eyes not to Joaquin Phoenix in the flesh, but in the mirror. And it's like this frame within a frame. And I thought it was just, it spoke so acutely to the dynamics between them, and like kind of having like images of people in your head, but not always grappling with the reality of them in an interesting way. When it came to shots like that, you know, how do you, working with the cinematographer, like come up with such, I mean, I thought it was just a really beautiful, evocative image.
So that was really, there's all these multiple doorways,
Yeah.
and then there's like a long vertical mirror that kind of matches the doorway. So that was, so like I love, let's geek out. So I love Ozu, right? Ozu's always shooting through a door or window or something like that.
Yes.
I love composition more than lighting or anything else. So it's like, and and Fidanzati, you know, Ermanno Olmi's film Fidanzati, lots of that too. I'm chasing both those films all the time. Or Gordon Willis cinematography, often shooting through something, often sort of observational. So that particular shot, I think me and Robbie kind of found it in an iterative, layered way. Like, oh, that door, right? Oh, if Joaquin walks through, and then he's in the mirror. And we do a lot of stuff in mirrors in the movie. I think I always like those kinds of shots because I feel like it's kind of echoing or bouncing off what's actually happening between the audience and the film. Because like you're watching through a frame to the action, and what's actually also happening is the audience is watching a frame with it happening. So that rhyming is sort of interesting to me.
Yeah, definitely. That, for whatever reason, popped a question into my head for you, Woody. Like, you know, getting in, I'm talking very technically about things, but one craft thing I'm always curious about is talking with actors and, like, the feeling of also seeing yourself on screen. What is that like, to see a different version of who you are, and which is just your artistic self, I should say, like on screen? Was that like a trippy experience?
I hate watching myself. I can't stand it. I cringe the whole time.
Really? Why?
I always just think I could have done that differently.
Oh.
So I'm watching it, but watching Joaquin, come on. It was the only time where I didn't cringe.
Wow.
I just thought that I forgot that it was me. I forgot that I worked on it when I was watching it. And I just lost myself in it, and I think it was very, it was just like, it made me feel like it was my memories, you know what I mean? Like, it just felt like very, like, welcoming watching it.
Yeah, I think that's a testament to the strengths of the film and how it kind of, I don't know, it's a movie that feels almost like the best hug you can get from your beloved grandmother in a way, like just this like intense warmth and sweetness. I keep telling people it almost has a sweet melancholy to it that I really liked. One of the other things I wanted to get into on a technical level was the sound design. I thought, you know, it of course makes sense. It's Joaquin Phoenix plays a guy who is, you know, a podcaster of the NPR-esque sort, who's, you know, interviewing these kids across the country. And, you know, that kind of kept me attuned to what was happening with the sound, whether it was Woody's character, like, you know, holding mics and, like, listening to things. But one thing I thought was really interesting about the film was how conversations bleed from scenes. Can you talk a little bit about, like, the sound design and kind of working with the soundscapes? Because I thought it was just as important as the compositions you're doing within the film visually.
I love sound when it's not in sync. or dialogue when it's not in sync, when it rolls past the image and keeps going, or prelapse what's happening, because sound is so rad and so important and it's an equal part of the story. So I feel like when things are out of sync, you kind of look at both sides, the visual and the audio, a little bit more closely. And then in this film, sound is like a theme, really, because sound, the film is so much about memory and like this person going by. Like children go by and they don't remember their own childhoods, and there's all these sort of like griefs of like the 5-year-old version of Woody is gone, the 7-year-old version, the 8-year-old, the 9-year-old, they're all gone, you know?
Yeah.
To the parent, you feel all these kind of losses. So sound echoes that in a way, because it's so temporal. It's like the most ephemeral, it's time, you know? And then another theme of the film is just like listening. And listening is like presence. Like if you're really just like trying to hear that helicopter in the distance, you become like hyper present. And I feel like kids do that to adults.
That actually brings up something that I was really struck by with the performances in the film, both, especially Joaquin Phoenix's and yours as well, and Gabby Hoffman's. They're all kind of work together as a dance. But one of the things I feel like people don't really talk about too much with acting is how important it is to be a good listener, and that is something that Joaquin Phoenix has to do, like both for plot reasons, but also like his character has to like be open in a way that a good listener usually is. And I was wondering, for you, Woody, when it comes to like listening as an actor and sort of navigating that sort of space, like what's something that you've learned from acting with regards to being a good listener that maybe other people in day-to-day life should know? Because I think that's something we all sometimes struggle with.
Don't take stuff to heart. Like, if someone says that you need to change something, just change it. Don't think that they're insulting you, because they're not. They're just saying it. But also, don't be afraid to ask someone to change something. Like, if you don't like something, just say it.
I love that bluntness.
That's what it's like.
No, seriously,
Yeah,
that's
yeah.
like really refreshing. And that's, you know, the character of Jesse can be really blunt. And like when he's asking Joaquin Phoenix's character, Johnny, like, why aren't you married randomly?
Yeah.
Like, actually, can you talk a little bit about that scene? That was like a really fun moment and revealing for both of the characters in a way.
Well, that was fun to film because I just got to ask him questions. I think some of them I just made up on the spot.
Oh, wow, really?
So, like, well, not made up, but I changed some.
Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean? But I think the marriage one stayed the same.
Yeah, I think that's actually one of the ones. Woody definitely did a lot of genius additions. I think that one's fairly written, but there was a funny thing. So me and Joaquin and Woody were there, and often Joaquin and I would get in a long conversation, and I think Woody'd be like, you know, boring adults, and me and Joaquin were like, okay, let's not ask the questions. Let's just be reading together. Cool. Yeah, that's much better. We don't need to ask all those questions. It's still on the nose. Ask if you're married. And we thought Woody heard or Woody was listening. And then we go to do the scene, and Joaquin's cruising along the scene thinking that Woody isn't going to say that. And Woody goes, why are you married? So Joaquin's like, you know, and that's what's on the camera, you know.
Nice.
And then he kept going, and every time Joaquin thought it was going to be over. And if you ever watch that scene again, watch Joaquin, because he's just like that. And but it made for a great scene. Do you remember that? I don't know if you even knew that was happening.
I've just found out, like, just now.
There's another great, so I just had to go through some of the dailies for a behind the scenes thing. And there's a scene, a really poignant scene in the movie where Woody's character discovers that his dad needs to be hospitalized. And he cries right on this one moment. And the crying is like not performative crying at all. It's not even like for the camera. It's just this little scoop.
Oh, you're so kind. Thank you.
And I've been watching that one take for like a year now, right? I picked it one take. I've been having it for a long time. So I had to go back to the dailies, and I was like, holy crap. Woody cries on the same line for like 8 or 9 takes.
Wow.
You know, like this. And I know you love a juicy, emotional moment. But I was like, that's really quite stellar to like be able to hold it and then have it happen. And each time it felt non-performative. Do you remember that day?
Yeah, it was that the one in the house or the one on the walk?
On the house.
In
when
the
you're
house,
sitting
yeah.
in the chair, it's like with the toothbrush scene.
Yeah, Yeah, I don't know why, but in film, just crying is so fun when you're acting. Because you just get to, like, think. It's the only time when you're acting that you can think about your own thoughts and not just think about what you're saying and what you're doing.
That's really interesting. Why do you think that crying allows that within a scene?
Just because you can bring in real life things that you would cry about, but like laughter, you wouldn't really think of something you'd laugh about.
That's true.
So it's one of the only things in the film that I know that you can think.
That's interesting. Like your own space. You can get
Yeah,
into yourself for a sec.
It's like you're not even when you're crying or showing a sad emotion, you can really just bring in stuff like you're not even filming. You're just thinking.
Wow.
See?
Okay.
So often when I had to do Q&As, and I'm like, was it hard working with a child actor? I was like, you have no idea how unchildlike this person is and how childish Joaquin and Gabby are. Right, can you speak to that? How goofy are those two?
Oh my God, Joaquin. He is so weird. He would just start in a scene in New Orleans. He started to just act like James Brown. It was very funny. Remember, he just started dancing and singing like James Brown.
Oh yeah.
I don't even think we filmed it.
It's in the movie.
Is it?
Yeah, he's like dancing. You got the toothbrush going.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
I do.
It's like a little sliver. But when Joaquin and Gabby are around, they couldn't stop giggling. They were impossible. I found them so difficult.
Oh,
at times.
when we were doing the chemistry read, I don't know if I should say this. I knew the lines. He didn't.
Oh, wow.
It was a very funny moment. So, Joaquin's looking at the lines. Joaquin doesn't even know who's doing the movie, really, right? And he's Joaquin. And he's got the sides, and he's kind of, Witty's got his lines memorized, and Joaquin's kind of looking at the sides. And Joaquin just sort of improvised the line, and Witty's like, oh, I'm sorry, that's not the line. And Joaquin's like, yeah, buckle up, be prepared. And that was really fun.
Yeah.
And then you got it right away. Like, you got the game, the way he plays.
You know, one thing I'm curious to ask you, Woody, you're very perceptive, and I'm curious from your point of view as an actor, as, someone who cares about film, like, how do you know you're in the presence of a great performance? Like, what about a performance can lead to greatness in your mind?
Nothing's fake. If they start acting, it's not good. But when they're being real and they're not pretending to be anything and they're just, they're just talking to you, it just makes everyone more comfortable to work. Because if you have like a actor who's like not nice and rude, you can never act. You always have to think. Like, you can never just let yourself go and act.
Yeah.
But with Joaquin, who is just amazing with acting, but he doesn't want people to say it. He doesn't even think it.
Well, buckle up, because I think people are going to be really praising everything about this film. His performance is... I'm just, like, in awe of everything that was happening in the film. And just, like I said earlier, it just feels like a dance between all of you guys. And it's just really beautiful to watch. One thing I'm curious, this is for both of you, like, what did you guys learn from each other working together?
Oh my gosh. Do you want to go first?
Well, from Mike, I now want to direct a film when I'm about, like, I don't know, older.
Cool.
Because that just seems fun.
I was like, what age is he going to say so I can...
You've already directed some awesome stuff.
I have for school.
That's cool.
I go to a theatre school.
Yeah.
So we had to do a project for drama. And I directed a horror film that was like 5 minutes long.
Tell me
It's
more.
just
I
me
love
going
horror.
into a shed, dying. So I go into this big, beautiful place that we went in. We kind of made it up as we went along, but we did have like a rough script. And we just went in. I read something. It was a note from like a killer. I can't remember. But we shot it in black and white actually, just because I thought it looked cool.
I mean, black and white when handled. It does look pretty cool.
Yeah.
What is it about directing that attracts you though?
You can just like do whatever you want, and that's very fun. And I'm just gonna say they didn't say this, but I definitely won that project.
I love that confidence.
Reckoning here.
I mean, everyone. I didn't even read the assignment. You were supposed to do the same story. I didn't read it. All I read was, okay, you have to direct a film, and then I left the Zoom call. I don't even know if the Zoom call finished. But yeah, that was so fun to film.
Nice. Would you want to do horror, or is there any genre specifically that really excites you?
Yeah, I really want to direct a horror film.
I think that's a good choice.
A couple years ago, which I don't want to do anymore, I wanted to direct a film that would get banned. I think that'd be really cool. Not anymore though, because films that are banned aren't usually that good.
Yeah, yeah, you're...
Because like they have to be banned for a reason. I think it's classier in a horror film to be scary without gore.
Oh, you know what? You're totally right. One of my favorite horror films is from the 60s. It's called The Innocents with Deborah Carr, and it is like there's no blood or gore, but it is so effectively creepy ghost story. Or maybe are there ghosts? Who knows? You should check it out.
I
think you'd
absolutely
like
love
it.
horror. Me and my family, we just watched Blair Witch. I loved it. It was so good. And I really liked how you didn't see it. I thought that was a good decision, because if you saw it, it wouldn't be scary. Because it's like, oh my God, it's a monster with teeth and stuff. It would just be like, it would ruin it.
Exactly. You know, I think it's really smart when directors let the, audience's imagination take a few steps. It kind of gives you interesting leeway, and usually, you're totally right. The most effective horror films usually are very judicious about what they show and don't show.
The only film where you could really see what was happening that I really liked was The Shining. And that stuck with me. I only got scared like 3 days after watching it. And I watched it on a plane about to do reshoots with him.
Oh.
So I loved it. The scene with the bear and the guy scared me so much because I was not expecting it. It was just, what were they doing? A couple days after I found out what they were doing. And yeah, that film was so scary because it felt so long, and it got just so uncomfortable.
Yeah, it gets under your skin very effective.
And I've heard it was like torture filming that. Just like, but it got a good film out of it, so
Yeah.
whatever you got to do.
Yeah. True director. Okay.
Oh my God, I love your love of film. It's
Oh, yeah.
very infectious.
Yeah. Woody also was really into music and was constantly doing music things.
Nice.
And I can totally see Woody being a director because I think he's interested in so many things.
Nice.
Yeah.
And what do you think you may have learned from Woody and being around him and everything that went on with this film?
Well, I don't know. It's like just Woody or Woody and Vonda, Woody's mom, like the culture of their family. But I feel like you guys are seeing it here today. What a deep rudder! What a presence!
Yeah.
And not performing for anyone, but being very honest and accessible. And I think me and Joaquin and Gabby all feel is like, how did he get older than us? How is he more mature than us in this one way? So that kind of he had it from the first audition we did. Is he wasn't playing for the camera, and I think a lot of young people who are acting professionally, they're taught to perform for the camera and not touch their face and all this kind of stuff. And what Woody was doing was just different. It was like a different species, and it was much more finding a way to be authentically present in this construct, right? And that takes so much.
A lot of things.
Self-confidence, self-knowledge. I don't know what it is.
Self-awareness. Definitely.
Comfort, something
Yeah.
that I don't have.
Yeah, I think it's
So-
difficult to be that level of grounded. I am
Yeah.
not that level of grounded, but I'm a writer. I can be a neurotic mess. That's sort of our
Yeah.
thing. But one thing I had in mind, hearing you mention just reshoots, was when was the film exactly shot?
We started in October 2019, and then we ended in the end of January 2020. So we're very lucky in terms of COVID-ness.
Yeah, that was why I was asking, because I was like, how did they do, if this was shot during COVID, how did all the New Orleans and everything? But, it's really refreshing, though, watching a film that has nothing to do with COVID. It's been very interesting kind of seeing filmmakers, and whether they're on television or making films, sort of navigate how much you actually deal with COVID. But one thing I really loved watching Come On was how it feels like a real continuation of work you've done before, like, you know, with 20th Century Women, and like this keen interest in like cross-generational dynamics. What about the nature of family and cross-generational dynamics excites you so much as a creative?
I feel like it's like the site of everything, and it doesn't have to be biological family.
Of
obviously.
course, found or blood related.
Exactly. Just who's your primary other in your life as a kid or as an adult? Because I really believe that we kind of figure ourselves out only in relationship to other people. So I think my films are all just about that. Like, how am I trying to figure myself out in relationship to you, and that tangle. And I feel like all movies, a Marvel movie, a war movie, are actually family movies, because that's how we figure out the world, and that's how we create all of our signifiers and all of our maps, you know, is in those initial relationships. And they're just the most interesting to me. And then I got in this weird career thing of writing about people I know, which I didn't plan on, and my dad came out after my mom died, and he was 75. It was just such a wild story.
Yeah.
So and he was such a kind of wildly glorious, vain person at the end. And so I could say to him while he's still alive, I'm going to make a movie about you because you were just blowing my mind. And he'd be like, sure, of course, you know. So his spirit, or like that kind of vibe, gave me entry into doing this kind of work that I wouldn't have had with my mom or anything else. So I didn't know I was going to be doing this kind of stuff forever.
How do you navigate, though, pulling from the lives of people you know? I think that's a very tricky dynamic as an artist.
So with those ones, I had the situation, both my parents are passed away, so I just have this, like, deal with, if I ever see him again, I gotta show up and, like, explain myself, right? I had literally thought about that every day I wrote, like, okay, when I see Mom, she's gonna ask me about this. So this time it's different, because my kid, I wanted to make this movie for years and just couldn't figure out how to do it, because I didn't want to mess with my kid or, like, throw too much of a shadow across their path and their mystery, right? So what makes it safe for me or interesting is, like, giving the keys to the car to Woody. You know, like, because Woody isn't my kid.
Yeah.
And there's big differences between Hopper and Woody. And I celebrate those differences. And there's big difference between, like, me and Joaquin, obviously, right? And except he's wearing my pants in the movie. But so, like, and I love that exchange. It's like a magical spiritual exchange. Like, this came from my perspective, or this came from my seeing my kid, but now it's yours. So, like, if Woody asked me a question, if I was on my game, I'd be like, well, what do you think? What should he do? You know, back to you. Does that sound right?
Yeah. There was never any, like, I don't know if this is even related, but there was never any superiority. Like, none. The director, all of us were exactly on the same pedestal. There was never, like, all of us could add anything. It was never like the actor was superior or the director was superior. It was always just joint creativity. And I think that's what gave the film a lot of charm, because you could tell that there was a lot of input going on.
Yeah, definitely. It feels like organic and multivalent in a very interesting way to me. I'm a writer. I have to break out, like some fancy ass words.
When you see that in my interviews from now on.
Yeah, I'm gonna be like, this man took my word. Obviously, one of the final questions I want to ask, obviously, everyone brings their own experiences to a film, right? We all come away with different feelings, different emotions, no matter what the artist may intend. But one thing I'm really curious to hear from you guys is, what feeling would you like audiences to come away from with this film? I know what I came away from with it, obviously the intimacy and warmth, and there's like a sparkling beauty to it that really struck me. But for you guys, like, what are you hoping it instills in viewers?
I really just want it to feel like you've gone on a journey and just feel comforted. Because it's a very, even though there's a lot of scenes that are very intense, none of them feel overwhelming. And a big thing in that film is being overwhelmed. And I don't think filming it or watching it ever made me feel like it's too much. it always like went to the very edge of just being like, but it never did, and it just felt like just comfort to me. And watching it's just, it feels like just warm. And even though it has no colour, it's one of the most colourful films I've been in. And all of the, just everything you see is very vibrant, even though it's like quite, not dark, but like the camera's like black and white and stuff. But it's just, it makes me feel warm inside.
Yeah.
You're gonna be such a good director.
Yeah.
For me, so I edited the movie alone, or my editor was like in the screen, right? And I never saw the movie once with another person in the room because it was COVID, right? A lot of people saw it, but not together. So then I go to like Telluride Film Festival, and it's like a full room, people watching together. I'm like, this is so trippy. This practice of, it's like a pagan ritual, like a bunch of strangers getting into a dark room, watching a dream that someone else dreamed together. It's like, it's so trippy, right?
It is.
And it's like really emotional for me lately. Every time I go to introduce the movie, you come on the stage and you like see all the people, like, ah! You know, because I just haven't seen that many people in a long time. And the thing I really love and celebrate is it's a dream. Everyone takes their own dream thing away from it. It's really quite beautifully varied and feral, like the way people interpret your movie. And then people often ask, what's the title mean? And I was like, I don't know. And I really don't. And I like it a lot. And I like that I don't totally know. I have a good vibe about it, you know?
Yeah.
And that's kind of how I feel about the whole movie. Like, hopefully it's open-ended enough. Hopefully it's like a Satie thing, or like you can take different parts. But yeah, I think there's as many different movies as there are people in the audience.
That's beautifully put. And I may steal that for a review one day.
Like we could trade.
Yeah, let's trade.
She took my line.
Well, we're about out of time, but I really just wanted to say thank you guys so much for coming here and having this great conversation about this truly amazing film. I'm really excited for people to get to experience it.
Thanks for being so kind to us and our movie.
Let me tell you something. If there's some coworkers in this audience, they know me to be blunt. I am not the type to fawn over something if I don't like it. I do not have a poker face. I could never be an actor because of it. I'm terrible with that.
Maybe you'd be a great actor, according to him.
You know, maybe I'm selling myself short. But it is truly a beautiful film, and it's you may not even care about this, but we're having to do our top 10 list super early, which is annoying. And I was like, yeah, come on, has to be on.
Oh, that's so nice.
It just hit me like with a gut punch. I think partially because my grandmother passed this summer, and I've been thinking a lot about like legacy and what we put out into the world and what's passed down. And I think the film takes a very gimlet-eyed perspective on these very intimate topics that we kind of wrestle with as human beings in a way that I don't think we often get in film today. Just something small and sweet and intimate. And I'm really excited for people to be able to watch it when it comes out next week. I think it's great. So thank you guys so much for coming. This was amazing.
Thank everyone for being here.
Thank you. And just a heads up, you guys can get a cocktail at the Vulture Lounge, which is by the pool, which I will probably be doing myself. But thank you again. This was so much fun.
Thanks.